Good afternoon and good morning to all participants and the panelists. I hope you are all well and healthy. My name is Yen. I am the Study UK Senior Marketing Manager in British Council, Indonesia, and I'm delighted to host the pre-departure briefing today. Before we start, I'd like to quickly run through simple housekeeping in the next slide. So this webinar will be recorded and a copy of the slides and recording will be sent to you within 3 days after the webinar. There will be Q&A sessions after the UKVI presentation and at the end of the webinar. You may use the chat feature to type your questions. Some questions from your registrations are answered in the FAQs that we send together with the confirmation email. So in case we are unable to answer all these questions here, please refer to the FAQ. Next, I'd like to introduce our panel of speakers for today. I would like to thank our speakers who are present here today. They are Mr. Hugh Moffat, Country Director of British Council Indonesia, Ms. Curly Rafians, Customer Account Manager of UKVI, Dr. Muhammad Faris, alumnus from Queen's University Belfast, and Ms. Nadila Renaldi, alumna from LSE. Thank you for spending your precious time with us today. Let us now hear from our Country Director, Mr. Hugh Moffat, to share his welcome speech. Over to you, Hugh.
Thanks very much, Yen. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Hugh Moffat. I'm the Country Director for British Council Indonesia, and it's great you've all joined today. Very excited to have you, and we have a great panel who will be answering your questions. So I will be very brief, you'll be pleased to hear. But just to add a few points, really, and it's a welcome to students, parents and agents today. As you know, UK is open for international students. We have been, particularly through COVID, but now things have changed. COVID is still with us, but we have found a way of working with it, and you'll find us it's safe and welcoming, and we're very excited to see you in the UK, wherever you come, whether it's Scotland, Northern Ireland, England or Wales, wherever you choose, there are lots of options for you. As you know, UK is world ranking very high up there, 3 in the top 10 of universities around in the top 10 from the UK, 7 in the top 50, 30 in the top 200. And as you know, we've got a very strong academic reputation, with the latest learning theories, top international tables, we score very, very highly. Not to mention, of course, our world leading research, which of course means that you will see us, we're second in the world for science and research, and our field weighting citations are higher than the US, Canada, Germany, Japan and Brazil, just to give a bit of a sense of the UK and where it stands. So you'll be working with the best minds and the best technology in the world from all around the world. And that's the point about the UK education system, is that you'll be working with internationals. That's, I think, one of the great benefits of joining us here. So you will be hearing, of course, from the fantastic Gurley, who knows all that you need to know about visas and very experienced and has already answered some of your questions in the Q&A. But again, you will hear more. So please do ask her all you need to check on that. We also, in the chat, we have Study UK advice. The future learning link will come in the chat any minute now as I speak, I suspect. So again, that gives you top tips and advice. And one of the things I think that you will be able to do when you are in the UK is there are many Indonesians. There's a very active UK alumni, PPI, UK, the Student Association of Indonesia, lots of activity going on, particularly around G20 this year, lots of support and connections and networks. So you can join that while you're there. But of course, when you have completed your study, you then join a global alumni of the UK. And we're relaunching this network, really, our Alumni UK. We want to really connect with the biggest network of students from all around the world who have studied in the UK. And you will be joining that group. And here's the link. So we really do want you to join us and really make that alumni build. We know the kind of connections. Just to give you one example, we have a very strong partnership with 3 universities in the UK, with 3 universities in Indonesia through a science link, as a result of really good engagement from those alumni who are now working in the UK following their studies. So that's what we want to see more of, and you're going to hear from some great people already who have studied, who will share their experience. So thank you, Faris, thank you, Nadila, who will also give their real experience, and I will then stop talking so you can hear from the real people who have more information to share. So good luck to everybody. Ask any question you need, and back to you, Yen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your motivational speech and sharing of the Alumni UK platform, Hugh. We will now move on to the core of the webinar, and I will start with preparing for your study and life in the UK. This presentation is designed to provide you with information to assist in your preparations for living and studying in the UK. Next slide. In this section, we will cover information from your university and a checklist of things to arrange prior to your arrival in the UK. Next, please. Your place of study should have sent you information. Read it all very carefully, and we recommend that you start making preparations as soon as you can. It may include information on practical life skills, academic matters, language and cultural preparation, arrival in the UK, as well as advice on immigration, managing your money, health and guidance for students with disabilities. You will be given deadlines for confirming services such as accommodation, meet and greet, orientation briefings, and emergency numbers to use should you require assistance on your journey to the UK. Next slide. The key things to remember are your visa and passport, details of your BRP, flight tickets, and accommodation. As for travel insurance, you should take travel insurance to cover your journey to the UK. This will cover you in case of any medical emergencies, for lost baggage or flight delays or cancellations. For insurance, for medical insurance, when you paid for the immigration health surcharge as part of your visa application, you're entitled to free NHS treatment. If you are coming to the UK for less than 6 months or on a visitor visa, you do not have the option of applying for this and are required to take out adequate travel and medical insurance for the duration of your stay. Your university or college should have sent you information about arrival, including a phone number for support. Keep this number with you when you travel. Check to make sure you have this. If you can't find it, please contact your institution. This will seem obvious, but make sure you know the address of where you need to get to. Print or write this down. Don't rely on your phone or tablet for essential information like this. Moving on to the next slide. So this is actually an online course. It's for your preparations to study in and live in the UK. This is a 4-week free course and will teach you everything you need to know about UK higher education, including teaching methods, course structures, and how coursework will be assessed. It will provide you with tips for studying in the English language and practical information about living in the UK. During the course, there will also be plenty of opportunities for you to interact with other like-minded individuals who are preparing for your UK education. This online course is provided twice a year. You can see the next available dates on the registration page, and once registered, students will receive a notification when the next course starts. You can see the link in the chat section. It is currently running, so you can actually still join this course. In the next section, we will cover what to pack and what not to pack in your luggage and carry on. Next slide, please. In your main luggage, ensure you have suitable clothing for the season that you will arrive in. Autumn is from September to November, winter from December to February, spring from March to May, and then summer from June to August. You may also want to take a few sets of formal or traditional wear. You may not want to buy a winter coat before you arrive, as it will take up a lot of room in your main luggage. There are plenty of reasonable options for purchasing warm clothing in the UK. If you take medication, make sure you have enough to take with you. You will be able to arrange a new prescription once you have registered with the doctor in the UK. In the next slide, we will look at what to pack in your carry-on luggage. This would be luggage you carry with you, so you should have a valid passport and visa, your travel ticket and departure details, the offer letter from the university or CAS, confirmation of your accommodation, at least for the first night in the UK, confirmation of your medical insurance, copies of your bank drafts or information about your bank accounts, contact details of your university, information about your airport or train station pickup if required, UK money to cover your immediate needs. Next slide, please. We now look at what not to pack in your luggage. This would include banned and restricted items such as drugs, weapons, indecent obscene materials, pepper spray, and counterfeit goods. Restricted foods consist of meat and meat products, all milk and dairy products, potatoes, fruit and vegetables, egg products, fish and fisheries products. Okay, in the next section, we will talk about your arrival in the UK, getting to your place of study, registering your stay, settling in, and traveling around. So next, okay, there are currently no COVID-19 restrictions in place for entering the UK. But remember to always check the latest travel advice before you travel, as this can change at short notice. We know how daunting moving to another country can be, and we want to reassure you that universities are working hard to ensure you know what to expect before you travel to the UK, and are welcome and supported on arrival and throughout your time at university. This includes airport pickup services, mental health and well-being support, food and grocery deliveries, a range of induction activities, so you can start to prepare for your studies and meet your fellow students. Remember to stay in touch with your university as you make your travel plans, so they can ensure you are supported and on arrival and throughout your time in the UK. When you arrive at the airport, follow the arrival signs to immigration and passport control. After passing immigration or passport control, move onwards to baggage reclaim to collect your luggage. Move on to custom control and exit using the correct lane. If you're traveling with no banned or restricted goods, take the green lane, and if you have goods to declare or if you're not sure, use the red lane. In the next slide, before you travel, please ensure you have a contact number in hand, just in case you require assistance when you reach the UK. This should be the International Student Advisory Service at your place of study. If possible, also ensure you have an emergency or out of hours contact number in case you arrive late or have any difficulties making your way to the institution. It is important that you keep your university informed of your travel plans. They may be able to offer additional support on arrival, such as transportation to your university. If you're making your own way, there may be a number of transport options depending on how far your institution is from your arrival airport, including bus, coach, train, or tube. Taxis can be very expensive, so try and plan your journey before you arrive, or speak to the information desk at the airport about the best options for your onward travel. Most airports have good rail or bus links or coaches that are often available for longer distance travel. If you're not sure of the best mode of transport or encounter any difficulties when you arrive, the airport information desk in the arrival hall at the airport will be able to provide assistance. In the next slide, we look at registering your stay. So your visa will be issued for a period of 30 days, which provides you with time to travel to the UK, and then you must collect your biometric residence permit, called BRP, which contains your permission to stay longer. 3 things to remember here. First, you should collect your BRP within 10 days of arrival. Second, while Indonesian citizens do not need to register with the police, we will encourage other nationalities to check on the gov.uk website. Thirdly, register with your place of study. Your university will advise you on how to do this. In the next slide, we will discuss about your safety, teaching at the universities, career support, and options after your studies. Although the UK has removed COVID-19 restrictions, student safety remains top priority in the UK. Each UK university has dedicated staff to support international students at every step of their journey, from application to preparing for travel to supporting you on arrival and throughout your time at university. Hand sanitizer is widely available across UK campuses, and face coverings are advised in crowded spaces. Visit the COVID-19 guidance for the part of the UK you are studying in to get more information. Next, we look at teaching delivery. As the UK has removed all COVID-19 restrictions, universities can now teach all classes in person. They are preparing to deliver high-quality teaching this academic year while still ensuring that your well-being remains top priority. Do contact university for advice and support about your course and your personal circumstances, if any. In the next slide, we will talk about career support while you study. There is a huge variety of career support on offer at UK universities. All UK universities have dedicated career advisors who can give you tailored advice on career development, and some universities even have dedicated career advisors for international students. All UK universities host job and career fair to help you connect with prospective employers both in the UK and around the world. Many professors are leaders in their fields, so you can learn from their expertise. There are a whole host of work placements, internships, and voluntary work on offer, both as part of certain courses and through UK universities in general. Take advantage of all these opportunities throughout your studies, not just when you're about to graduate. This will help you gain skills, experience, and connections throughout your time in the UK and help you set up for the best possible next step in your career. In the next slide, we discuss about options after your studies. After graduation, you may want to go into further studies, return to Indonesia to work elsewhere in the world, or stay and work in the UK. The graduate route welcomes international students to apply to stay in the UK and work, or look for work upon graduation. International students who have successfully completed an undergraduate or master's degree have the opportunity to apply to stay in the UK for up to 2 years after their studies. PhD graduates can apply to stay for up to 3 years. This route is unsponsored, which means you don't have to have a job to apply. And you can use the 2 or 3 years to gain experience, freelance, undertake an internship, or work in the UK. You can switch into skilled work routes once you have found a suitable job. Our colleague from UKVI will discuss more on this later. Moving on to the next section, we will now cover on accommodation, managing your finances, the UK culture, and food and drink. More tips will be shared by our 2 alumni later, so I will just go through this very briefly. Now, the UK is a vibrant cosmopolitan country with many traditions, customs, music, celebrations, excellent people to meet, and places to visit. And we hope that you are able to discover all this that UK has to offer. Next slide. Each city will have their own transport systems, so we recommend reading any information provided by your institution or organization, or looking at the Visit Britain website for more local information. There are a lot of resources available about accessibility and public transport in the UK. So if you need specific information about accessing public transport, please download Doing Transport Differently, which is a guide written for people with disability. It covers the benefit of using public transport. It also explains what kind of access is out there, how you can plan your journeys, and what to do if things go wrong. It is full of real experiences using trains, buses, coaches, undergrounds, light railways, ferries, and more. Next slide, please. When you accept your offer from your university, they will send you information about finding somewhere to live. Read this carefully and contact your university's accommodation office if you have any questions or concerns. Think about your requirements and needs before deciding what type of accommodation to choose. Universities provide secure accommodation, but there are other options available. Consider the location, as accommodation may be cheaper because it's further away, but you will then need to travel further and incur costs. So check carefully any terms and conditions in the accommodation contract and ensure it covers the length of your time in the UK before you sign. I believe our alumnus will be sharing this also in her slides. So I'll just brief this through in a next slide, please. Managing your finances, you may want to arrange an international bank account or bank card before you arrive in the UK, as this will help you access your money as soon as you arrive. We also recommend opening a UK bank account once you are living in the UK, unless you are doing a short course. The UK has a number of different banks, and many universities have on-campus or university-based branches. Your university can advise you on this. Don't bring large amount of cash with you. Across the UK, card and contactless payments are very commonplace, and some businesses have gone cashless since the COVID-19 outbreak. So in the next slide, your living costs will vary according to your type of accommodation, how much you travel, and where in the UK you study. It's important that you have realistic idea of what your costs, your living costs will be before you arrive in the UK. Our alumnus will be sharing more on this later. So studying in the UK is a good value for money, and average living costs here are lower than in both the USA and Australia. Again, the cost of living varies according to where in UK you decide to stay. You can expect to pay between £800 to £1,300 a month to cover your rent, bills, food, and other living costs. This will differ depending on where you live and study in the UK, with London and other major cities being more expensive. Next slide, please. There are a lot of discounts and voucher websites which promote current deals for shops, restaurants, and activities. You can register on these websites to receive regular emails and with updated offers or download the apps. Some examples are Coupon, Living Social, Voucher, vouchercodes.co.uk, Voucher Cloud. There are others, and you can search them online. If you do use any of this site, please read the terms and conditions carefully. Next, we will talk about culture and leisure. There are many clubs and society where you can join, and many UK universities have on-campus sports facilities. Some UK universities have their own cinemas on campus, offering you the chance to watch the best films at discounted price. Moving on is off-campus activities. You should definitely explore off-campus activities while in the UK. The UK is packed with museums, theatres, and other cultural attractions just waiting to be discovered. Some of the world's largest music venues and events are in the UK, the O2 Arena in London, and the world-famous Glastonbury Festival. There is also a cinema in almost every town and city with films from around the world. Next slide, please. You can find all kinds of international food and cuisines in the UK with a large array of different restaurants, takeaways, and food halls. Again, I believe Nadila will be sharing some of the tasty food suggestions later. Moving on to the next section, we will discuss about help and advisors, the NHS, and your safety. So universities have student well-being at their heart and provide holistic support for each student. So don't be afraid to be open and ask for help and support if you are experiencing stress, which is affecting your well-being and your studies. First, there are plenty of places you can reach out to to get support at your university. So we have a list here and a few websites of useful resources that you may reach out to whenever you need to. Again, don't worry, when we send you the slide, you will be able to have links to these web pages. Next slide. We now look at the NHS. The UK's National Health Services provides subsidized treatment and healthcare to international students. As part of your visa application, you will pay an immigration health surcharge. This will allow you to access medical care offered at no upfront cost by the NHS. Next slide. However, some part of the NHS are chargeable, and this includes medicines prescribed by a doctor, eye tests and eye care, dental care, and vaccinations. Next, we will look at the NHS. When registering with the doctor or GP, please take your passport, student identification, proof of address, and a photograph with you. After a short time, you will receive an NHS card by post at your home address, which you can keep with you in case of any queries when attending medical appointments. NHS dentists can be harder to register as they usually have full patient lists. You may have to register on a waiting list for a period of time. Your GP can refer you to an NHS dentist on request. Please note that even if you register with an NHS dentist, you will have to pay a contribution for checkups and basic care. In each of the UK countries, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, the NHS services may be slightly different. For example, the cost of prescriptions. So please check these websites. Finally, you can also visit a pharmacy for advice or guidance. Moving on is about a COVID vaccine. Anybody in the UK is eligible for COVID-19 vaccines for free, regardless of their nationality or immigration status. International students should register with a local GP and get an NHS number. An NHS number can be found on any letter the NHS has sent you, on a prescription, or by logging on to the GP practice online services. You can also find your NHS number using an online tool. While registration with a GP is encouraged to access the vaccine, you can request to book your COVID-19 vaccination appointment as an unregistered patient through a local GP practice. You may visit the NHS website for more information about this. Next, we will talk about your personal safety. Generally, the UK is a very safe country with low levels of crime and violence. Community police officers on campus-based security staff can also give you practical and reassuring advice about personal safety. You will be able to access the guide booklet Staying Safe in the UK when we send this slide over to you. Next, we look at your personal safety again. These are the numbers you can call when you need to. So please keep this with you. You should also retain a copy of your embassy contact number just in case. It may also be worth registering with your embassy. Moving on. Well, this is my second last slide. So I want to stress that you should always abide by the UK law when you are there. Follow local rules and national laws. The UK is proud to be a diverse country and you should respect all the people and culture. Failure to follow laws could lead to a fine or a cancellation of your visa. So finally, I provided a lot of information just now, and I believe you may be experiencing some information overload now. Don't worry, as you can always visit the Study UK website if you need to refer to anything at all. So moving on, we are going to the next most important session. I would like to invite Ms. Gurli Rapuyan to share about student visa. So over to you, Gurli.
Thank you, Yen. Hi. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning to everybody who is in the UK. So I'd just like to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Gurli Rapuyan. I'm a customer account manager for UK Visas and Immigration. And for today, I'll be discussing everything that you need to know about the student visa. I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you, so it's going to be pretty intense, but bear with me. As Yen has mentioned before, you're going to be receiving a copy of the slides. And I've linked to all of the relevant gov.uk pages that you need to check out before or during your visa application process. So as a quick introduction, I'd just like to say that this presentation will cover the visa application process from end to end. We'll also be discussing some updates on the visa application processing times. We'll also go over the student visa supporting document checklist and also some common reasons for refusals that I've experienced in the past. Also, we'll go over really quickly about on the post-study options that are currently in place for people who have finished their studies in the UK. And finally, I'll just touch on the current guidelines for travelers entering England. So next slide, please. So for the visa application process, us in UKVI, we've kind of divided it into 3 stages. One is the pre-application stage. This is where you, the customer or the applicant, go on to gov.uk to check out and research which visa category is most applicable to your situation. It would mostly depend on the kinds of activities that you're going to be doing in the UK. So if you're going to be studying in the UK, you're going to need to apply for a visa that would allow you to study in the UK. If you're going to go there for tourism, you're going to need to apply for a visa category that would allow you to visit the UK as a tourist. So every visa category has its own dedicated web page or guidance page on gov.uk that would list down all of the activities that you're allowed to do under that visa category, all of the activities that you're not allowed to do under that visa category. It will also list down all of the supporting documents that UKVI will expect you to submit with your visa application. So it is at this stage that UKVI would highly encourage customers or applicants to prepare the necessary supporting documents just to make sure that everything goes smoothly once everything is in place. It's just that I believe that a lot of people are waiting for their CAS letters or their course confirmation of acceptance of studies letters. We highly recommend for students to prepare all of the other supporting documents that are needed for the visa application while waiting, just so that when the CAS letter comes around or gets sent to you, you can lodge your visa application as quickly as possible so that you can lodge it and give UKVI enough time to process your visa application before your course starts. Also, on the dedicated gov.uk guidance pages on each visa category, you're going to be directed to a link that will take you to the online application form. That's for step 2 actually, where the customer or you have to fill up the online application form. The most common feedback that UKVI has received about the application form, about our application form, is that it's very, very long and it asks a lot of questions. It's just that UKVI no longer requires customers or applicants to come in for a face-to-face interview. So everything that the assessing officer will use to decide on a visa application will be coming from the details on the application form as well as the details on the supporting documents. So please make sure to complete the application form as quickly, as completely and as accurately as possible, just to save yourself any kind of problems as far as uh, maybe not putting in the correct information that will lead to a negative decision. After you complete the application form online, you're going to be taken to a page, to a payment page. You're going to be asked to pay your visa fee and any other fees that are relevant to your to your visa category. And afterwards, you're going to be transferred to the website of our third-party service provider. At this point, if you're going to be doing the self-service option, if you have already prepared your supporting documents from step one, you can go ahead and self-scan your supporting documents yourself onto the system. Afterwards, you're going to be taken to the appointment management system where you're going to be booking your appointment for step three. Step three is where the customer or the applicant has to come into the Visa Application Center or VAC to submit their biometric information. It's not a face-to-face interview, but it is the final requirement before UKVI can consider a visa application to be fully lodged. So on your appointment at the VAC or the Visa Application Center, the staff there is going to take your photo and they're going to also collect your fingerprints and they're also going to take your passport for safekeeping while your visa application is being processed. If you didn't choose the self-service option for the self-scanning or the self-upload of the supporting documents, you can bring your supporting documents with you on the date of your appointment, and the staff at the Visa Application Center can scan it for you. But this is a chargeable service as there's going to be an extra fee. Next slide, please. So speaking of the Visa Application Center in Indonesia, it is currently being for UKVI, it's currently being managed by our third-party service provider, VFS Global. They do have 3 locations in Indonesia. One is in Jakarta, Bali, and another one in Surabaya. I've listed down all of their addresses and all of their operating hours on the screen. But as you know, things do change pretty quickly in these situations of the pandemic. Lockdowns do happen and restrictions do come up very, very quickly. So I would highly suggest that you visit their website. That's visa.vfsglobal.com/IDN before you visit, just so that you know the latest guidance if there's any changes that you need to as far as their operating hours or their days when they're open. They also list there on their website a list of their premium services or added value services that you can check out. It might be worth your while to know that you can borrow your passport while your visa application is ongoing. It is a chargeable service, but they have a lot of services that you can avail that might make your customer journey a little bit more comfortable with your visa application. Next slide, please. So for the visa processing times, under normal circumstances in Indonesia, UKVI offers 2 standard services. One is the standard service where a decision should be made on an application within 15 working days. And another one is the option for customers to upgrade to the priority service where an application decision should be made on an application within 5 working days. However, if you go to the dedicated gov.uk guidance page that I've linked on screen, next slide please, you're going to see a message that's going to be flashed on there that to say to advise customers and applicants that UKVI is currently experiencing delays with processing visa applications. Depending on the visa category that you're applying for, you might experience different service standard times or decision-making times. However, we do apologize for the inconvenience. It's just that as of this moment, UKVI cannot process visa applications quickly enough to justify charging customers the priority service fee. So what does this mean for you? So as of this presentation, customers for student visa applications are not yet able to upgrade to the priority service. So the standard decision making time for student visa application sits at 3 weeks. We do apologize for this inconvenience, but the general advice from UKVI is to launch the visa application as quickly as possible. As I mentioned before, if you already have the supporting documents, or maybe if you don't have it yet, maybe start preparing the supporting documents just so that when the CAS letters get released later this month, you can go ahead and lodge your visa applications as quickly as possible. So if you're particularly interested in following up on this topic, I've linked the guidance page to gov.uk on the screen, and you're going to be receiving a copy of this presentation via email, so you can check it out once in a while. All and every updates about the visa processing times and the priority service reinstatements will be published there first. Next slide, please. So for the visa options for students, as of this presentation, if you want to study in the UK, there are 3 visa categories that are applicable, available to you. So it depends on how long you're going to be studying in the UK. So if you're going to be studying in the UK for less than 6 months, you can probably do it under the standard visitor visa. If you're studying an English language course that lasts 6 to 11 months, you have to go on the short-term study visa. But if you're studying in the UK longer than 6 months and you're going to be studying with a licensed student sponsor, you have to apply for a student visa. Next slide, please. So for the student visa, there are certain eligibility or check boxes or tick boxes that you have to check before you can apply. So the first one is age. You have to be 16 years old and over in order to be eligible for the student visa. If you're younger than 16 and you're going to be studying for longer than 6 months with a licensed student sponsor, you have to go for the child student visa, which is kind of similar, but they do have additional requirements as far as documentation goes. You also must have been offered a place on a course by a licensed student sponsor. So how will you prove this to UKVI? You have to show a valid CAS letter. So a certificate of acceptance of studies has to be submitted with the student visa application. You must also have enough money to support yourself and pay for your course. So you have to show financial documentation that you're able to support yourself for accommodation. If you're going to be studying for a year, you have to show that you have enough money to maintain yourself in the UK for 9 months. How much you have to show depends on where you're going to be studying. There's going to be different maintenance fees for people who are studying inside and versus people who are studying outside of London. You must also show that you have enough money to cover your course fees as stated on the CAS. You must also have an appropriate level of English for your course. This is UKVI would usually expect to see a SELT or a secure English language test exam result with your visa application to prove that you're at the appropriate level of English. So usually it's IELTS or Pearson's. There are 4 self testing results that UKVI would accept. However, if you're going to be studying at degree level or RQF6 and above with an HEI or High Education Institute, your school can actually make the assessment for you. They would just have to note it on your CAS letter that they have made the assessment and that they have found you to be at the suitable level of English, and UKVI will accept that as proof. You must also have consent letter from your parents if you're under 18. So UKVI would expect you to submit a signed consent letter by your legal guardians or your parents, specifically stating that they're allowing you to study in the UK. You can, if once you're in the UK, you can stay longer in the UK, so you can extend your visa, your student visa. There's a very specific situation where this can be done. You can also switch to a student visa from another visa category. However, you cannot switch to the student visa from a standard visitor visa. You can also switch to a graduate visa from the student visa after you're done studying. When you can apply for your visa application under normal circumstances without the delays, the general rule is that applicants are only allowed to apply as far back as 3 months before your course start dates. However, because of the delays that we're currently facing, we have extended this to allow applicants to apply as early as 6 months before your course start date if you're applying from outside the UK. How long will it take for you to get a decision? As I mentioned before, the standard decision processing time for student visa applications as of right now is sits at 3 weeks or 15 working days. For the full details about the student visa, it's all at gov.uk/student visa. Next slide, please. So as far as what you can do under a student visa, obviously you're allowed to study. You may be able to work, for example, as a student union sabbatical officer. Students are usually are given permission to either work at 10 hours per week or 20 hours per week, depending on their course, or also depending on the school that you have applied for. You may be able to also bring dependents with you, but this is strictly limited to partners, husbands or wives, and children. What you cannot do under the student visa, you cannot claim public funds, you cannot work in certain jobs. For example, if you're going to be a professional sports person or a coach, you have to go and apply for a different visa category. You cannot be self-employed, so you cannot start your own business under the student visa, and you cannot study at an academy or at a local authority-funded school because the school that you're going to be studying with has to be a licensed student sponsor. When can you travel to the UK? It depends on your course length. If your course lasts less than 6 months, your visa your G visa will most likely be valid 7 days before your course start date. But if your course lasts longer than 6 months, you're probably going to be given up to 1 month before your course start date, depending on your declared date of travel. So how much does it cost to apply for a student visa outside of the UK? It's £363 for people who are applying outside of the UK and £490 for people who are going to be applying within the UK. Next slide, please. So I'd just like to touch very briefly on the differentiation agreements according to the immigration rules ST 22.1. The nationalities on the screen, and if you'll notice, Indonesia is part of the list, are not required to submit financial documents with their visa applications, nor are they required to submit copies of the documents that the school used to make them an offer. So any of the documents that are listed on the CAS, you're not required to submit copies of that with your visa application. However, this is only applicable to Indonesian nationals who are going to be applying within their home country or their home territory. So Indonesians applying for student visa applications within Indonesia. So if you're applying from outside of Indonesia, you will not qualify for differentiation. You would have to submit everything with your visa application. And I just like to put out the disclaimer that even though you're not required to submit these two documentary requirements with your visa application, the assessing officer still holds the right to request copies of these from you. So if the assessing officer, for whatever reason, choose to ask you to provide copies of the financial documents as well as maybe your diploma as listed on your CAS, you will be contacted via email address, via email. You're going to be sent an email via the email address that you listed on your online application form, and you're going to be given 5 business days to submit copies of the requested document. If you fail to submit the requested document within the deadline, the decision maker or the assessing officer will proceed with processing your application without the requested document. So it will likely lead to a refusal. So as a rule of thumb, before you lodge your application, just have everything ready, just in case the assessing officer asks for it. Next slide, please. So moving on to the supporting document checklist. Again, all of the details here can be found on gov.uk/student visa. I've just kind of tabulated it just so that it would be easier. Please refer your attention to the highlighted columns because as I've mentioned before, if you're an Indonesian applying in Indonesia, you qualify for differentiation. So number 1, the IHS reference number. As Yen mentioned during her presentation, your student visa applicants are required to pay an IHS fee, so international health surcharge that will allow you to access the NHS or the National Health Service while you're in the UK as a student. How much you have to pay depends on your course length. There's going to be a website that you're going to be taken to after you pay for your visa application fee, I believe, that will ask for your CAS reference number and your course start date and your course end date. And once you press enter, it's going to automatically calculate how much you have to pay, and you have to pay it in full in order for your visa application to be lodged. So people have been refused for paying the incorrect amount of the IHS reference fee. So please be careful with that. The second documentary requirement is the TB certificate. So if you've been living in a TB country such as Indonesia for the 6 months before you lodge your visa application for a student visa, you have to show a valid TB certificate. So the TB certificates just show that to UKVI that you're free of any pulmonary tuberculosis, and it's going to be valid for 6 months. So as long as the visa application is lodged within the validity period of the TB certificate, UKVI will accept that. As of this presentation, there are 4 home office approved clinics that can issue the TB certificates for you. They can all their addresses and their contact details can be found on gov.uk. So the next documentary requirement is the ATA certificate. ATA stands for Academic Technology, I think Advanced Technology Academic Scheme. It's not a documentary requirement for all students, but it is a requirement for people who are studying certain sensitive courses. For example, if you're going to be learning how to create, or if you're going to be given knowledge on how to create weapons of mass destruction, it's going to be a course requirement. So if your school says that it's a requirement, UKVI will expect you to submit the ETA certificate with your visa application. So the easiest way for everybody to tell if this is a requirement is on the CAS letter, there's going to be a box that's going to be checked if the ETA certificate is required. So the next two items on the list, the parental consent and the proof of parent-child relationship, are requirements for people who are under 18. So if you're under 18, as I mentioned before, we would expect to see a signed consent letter specifically stating that your parents or legal guardians are allowing you to travel to the UK and study there. And we would expect to see proof of relationships to accompany your visa application. So we would accept birth certificates or family registers or adoption papers. The next two items on the list, if you'll notice, the evidence of funds and the other documents listed on the CAS are in check because you're different. If you qualify for differentiation, these aren't required. However, again, please have them ready just in case the assessing officer asks for them. We would also expect to see previous BRP cards, if applicable. So BRP cards, BRP stands for Biometric Residence Permits. It's a card, an identification card that's given to everybody who has been given a visa to stay in the UK for longer than 6 months. So if you were under a tier 2 or tier 1 dependent visa before, or even a student visa before this visa application, and you were given a BRP card, we would expect to see a copy of it with your visa application. Finally, we would expect to see English translations of all documents that aren't in English or Welsh, that has all of the translator details. It has to be copied. The documents has to be accompanied by an independently verifiable translated copy, just in case the home office or the assessing officer decides to call the translator and double check anything that they've translated. The translator has to be uh, contactable by UKVI. So again, for the full details, it's all on gov.uk/student visa. Next slide, please. So for dependents, just very, very quickly, again, you may be able to bring dependents with you under the student visa. However, you must be one of the three. So a full-time student on a postgraduate level course that lasts 9 months or longer, or a newly government-sponsored student on a course that lasts longer than 6 months, or a doctorate extension scheme student. So only those three types of students are able to bring dependents with them under the student visa. And again, it is strictly limited to husband, wives, or civil partners, or unmarried partners, and children under 18. What kind of documents will UKVI expect to see with their visa application? So number one, the financial documents. We expect to see proof that their dependents are able to support themselves while they're in the UK. The only thing to note here is that if your dependents are applying at the same time as the main applicant or the student, and the main applicant qualifies for differentiation, the dependents automatically qualify for differentiation. So if they're applying at the same time, and UKVI will not expect to see financial documents with the dependent's visa application. However, if the dependents are applying separately, we would expect to see financial proof of capability. We would also expect to see proof of relationship, so marriage certificates, family registers, or evidence of cohabitations for partners, and birth certificates for children. Because they're going to also be applying to stay in the UK longer than 6 months, we would also expect to see valid TB certificates with their visa applications, as well as IHS reference numbers. So how long can dependents stay in the UK? If their visa applications are successful, they will have the same end date as that of the main applicant or the students. I've linked the guidance page on gov.uk for dependents for student visas. Next slide, please. So moving on to the BRP cards, as I mentioned before, it's a card, an identity card that's given to everybody who's been granted leave to stay in the UK for longer than 6 months. As Yen has mentioned in her presentation, so what will you be getting once your visa application has been processed? If you are issued a visa, you're going to be getting your passport back, as well as you're going to receive a letter. So on your passport, there's going to be a vignette there, a vignette of the visa that has been issued to you, and it's going to be valid for 90 days. And what you have to do next is you have to enter the UK within the validity of this visa. So within the 90 days that's on your visa, you have to enter the UK and collect your BRP card as instructed by the BRP letter that was also provided to you. If you didn't travel, if you fail to travel to the UK within the visa validity, you have to apply for a different visa category. It's called a vignette transfer. And after that, you will be issued another vignette or a visa with is going to be valid for another 90 days that will allow you to enter the UK to collect your BRP card. As mentioned by the previous presentation, you will be given 10 days upon arrival to collect your BRP card. For the full details, it's on gov.uk/biometric residence permits. Next slide, please. So moving on to some common reasons for refusal. Number one, not including the correct supporting documents or submitting documents without translations. Failing to disclose full travel or immigration history. There's a question on the application form that will ask you for, I think, the past 10 years travel history. So please complete that as accurately as you can. Another one would be not providing evidence of the relationship between you and your parents or guardians and sponsors. This is UKV is very, very strict when it comes to minors. So if you're under 18, please make sure to submit these two documents with your visa application. And finally, people have been refused because they didn't submit a TB certificate or an ATA certificate with their visa application when it was a required document. Next slide, please. So for the post-study options, as mentioned before, the latest newly launched visa category that's applicable for people who have finished their studies is the graduate visa. We just launched this last year. I'll be going over the eligibility factors on the next slide, but there are also other existing visa categories that people can apply for after completing their studies. So we do have the long-term work visas for people who want to work in the UK for 3 to 5 years, the short-term work visas for people who want to work in the UK 1 to 2 years, and then we have the investor business development and talent visa for people who want to start their own businesses while in the UK. Next slide, please. So as mentioned before, the graduate visa can allow people who have recently graduated to stay in the UK for an additional 2 or 3 years, depending on the course that they finished. 2 years for bachelor's degrees and 3 years for PhDs. So for the full details, it's on gov.uk/graduate visa. But I just like to highlight the main difference between the graduate visa and the other already existing options. So for the graduate visa, you're allowed to switch jobs without having to apply for a different visa every time you move companies, because for the other already existing visas you have to be sponsored by the company you're working for. So if you switch jobs and you move companies, you would have to apply for a different visa to reflect your new sponsor. So under the graduate visa, you're allowed to switch jobs, look for work jobs, and even start your own businesses uh, without the requirement of having been sponsored. So for eligibility, you must be in the UK when you apply. You cannot apply for a graduate visa from Indonesia. Your current student visa must be valid at the time of your visa application for the graduate visa, and you must have studied a UK bachelor's, postgraduate, or other eligible course for a minimum period of time with your student visa, and you must have studied your course in the UK for at least 12 months, or the full length of your course, whichever is shorter. You must have also studied with an education provider with a track record of compliance in order to be eligible for the graduate visa, and you must have successfully completed your course. You don't have to have already graduated. As long as your school says that you're done with the course and you've completed, you can lodge your graduate visa application. It usually takes 8 weeks to be processed, and you can only lodge this from the UK, but you're allowed to stay in the UK while your visa application is being processed. Next slide, please. So finally, the international travel guidance, as mentioned before, anybody entering England after March 18th don't have to do anything. It's basically back to normal. So no more quarantines, no more pre-departure or post-arrival test requirements, and no more passenger locator forms as required. However, because things can still change very, very quickly, I've also linked the guidance page on gov.uk for travelers. It's also always worth checking out just before you travel, just to make sure that you're up to date with the latest information. Next slide, please. So for the final slide of my presentation, I just like to leave you with two top tips. Number one is always check gov.uk for the latest policy and travel guidance. And please submit your visa application early. As mentioned before, you are allowed to submit your visa application up to 6 months before you travel. Thank you. I think there's going to be Q&A for Yen. I've also linked the pages on gov.uk on the slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Girly, for all the information. I think the participants are even more overloaded now.
Sorry.
So let me look at some of the Q&A from the chat. So if anyone has any question and hasn't dropped in yet, please drop your questions now. There is one question on can I apply for visa in September, but potentially only go in later months like January 2023?
So for the student visa, the visa validity date that you're going to be given would depend on your course start date. So as long as your CAS letter hasn't still expired by the time of your planned travel date and you've applied up to 6 months before your course start date, you will be issued a visa. The only concern there is that by the time of the visa application, and by the time if your declared intended date of travel, your CAS letter has already expired, UKVI will contact your school to make sure that you're still allowed to go to the UK and study there. So as long as everything is sorted in that point, that should be no problem.
Thank you, Girly. Second question, which well, you have already answered, is please explain the requirements for dependents of student visas. Do you want to? Yeah, I think, yeah, please.
Sure. Very, very quickly. So for the requirements for dependents, as long as you fit and as long as the student fits under one of the three categories that are allowed to bring dependents with them under the student visa, the financial, the documents that we expect to see with your with their visa applications would be the financial proof of capability that they'll be able to maintain themselves while they're in the UK. How much depends again on where the student is studying. There are different maintenance fees for people who are studying inside versus people who are studying outside of London. It's the same computation. So if the student is going to be studying in the UK for longer than a year, we would expect to see proof that they're able to maintain themselves in the UK for at least 9 months. The next documentary requirement is that we would expect to see proof of relationship between the dependents and the student or the main applicant. So again, family registers, marriage certificates, proof of cohabitations for partners, and then birth certificates for children under 18. And then finally, the next two documentary requirements are the TV certificates and the IHS reference numbers.
Thank you, Girly. The next question is about priority visa application. I think this is more for those students who are waiting for their A-level, and it will only be released mid-August, I believe. So
as of right now, there's still no priority upgrade option for student visa applications. It might change depending on how well or depending on the situation. The delays that UKV are experiencing is very complicated and it's because of many different factors. So again, I've linked you to the decision processing times guidance page on gov.uk. If you're particularly interested, we will be updating it there first if we have reinstated the option for priority services to student visa applications. As of right now, the general advice is just to lodge your application early or at least maybe start preparing your supporting documents just so that you have everything in place once your CAS letters or your offers are sent out.
Okay, thank you, Girly. In view of time, we will now stop the Q&A. However, Girly may be answering your question on the chat. We will now move on to alumni sharing. So we will have our first alumnus, Dr. Muhammad Faris, to share on his experience. Over to you, Faris.
Okay, thank you so much, Ian. So let me introduce myself first. So my name is Faris. I am a graduate student I'm a graduate student from Queen's University Belfast, so I'm taking this course of the School of Pharmacy. So I was being graduated around several months ago, and I am now still working in Queen's University Belfast as a postdoctoral fellows. Okay, so next slide, Ian. Okay, so I will just sharing what you feel in your first years in your study. First, it's definitely will feel homesick, definitely. So how to cope with that? So just find your friends, make some friends, make a lot of friends, and try to contact the members of the Indonesian Student Association in your city. The second one is the language barrier. So although your IELTS score is high, for example, you have a 8.5 score in IELTS, but in UK, every locals have many different accents. For example, in my place in Belfast, the accent is very different and then in London. For example, in my first years, I cannot even buy a SIM card because the language is very difficult for me to learn. And then you might feel a different culture. For example, the foods, the habit of UK people, it might be a difference. For example, calling your professor, you just call him your name is unusual in Indonesia, but it's usual in here. And you will feel lonely. And the last thing is the weather. It's mostly rainy in UK, so almost rain every day. So just prepare for the rainy seasons, wear your jacket, find some coat or umbrella. Umbrella is not recommended because sometimes it's really windy. So it's better to get some raincoat for it. And for the PhD students, I'm just telling you that the first year of your PhD student is very critical. So you'll have a differentiations that will determine your future. Because most in university, the differentiation will determine whether you will a qualified or MPhil or PhD. So just get prepared for your differentiation in Bachelor or PhD. Another notes for me, for Muslim, the praying times is very different compared to Indonesia. So here the praying times might be really different when you're different season. For example, in winter or in summer, it's very different. So just check your praying times with the nearest mosque or something. And the last one for me from this slide is learn how to cook because it will be very useful for you. There is a lot of Asian shop, but very few Indonesian food seller in here. So just learn to cook Indonesian food. Okay, next slide, Ian, please. Okay, how to handle the culture shock and your homesick. So first, admit frankly that this impact exists. So you don't need to deny it. Yeah, there is a barriers when you are come to the new place. And the second one, like Ian has described before, learn the rules of living in the UK. Get involved in some aspect of the Indonesian culture. Learn something new while you're in UK. Take time to learn the language. So don't just socialize between Indonesian community. So find a lot of friends from different country. Find a local friends. Get a friend with local friends. It's easier for you to learn the language. And then take care of yourself. So eat well, exercise, and also limit your alcohol if you're drinking, because in UK there is a lot of pubs. So try to limit yourself. Travel also. I suggested you do a lot of travel while you're in the UK because a lot of beautiful scenery in the UK. Make friends, maintain contact with friends and family back home. Don't forget your family back home while you're in the UK. Always text them, tell them you're new. How are you now? And something like that. And do something that reminds you of your home. For example, like gardening or sport or something. And try to avoid idealizing life back home because you are just comfortable in Indonesia. Right now, in the next 1 year or 3 years or 4 years, you will be in another different country. Don't compare every step in your life in UK with your Indonesia. Try to adapt yourself with the new culture. Next slide, Ian, please. Hello. Yeah. Is UK expensive? Like Ian has described before, it's depends. You said expensive or not. You can expect to pay around 1,000 until 2,000 a month to cover accommodations, bill, food, and other living costs, especially after Russia-Ukraine crisis. So the living costs are soaring high in here. For example, you need to budgeting around 50 to 100 pounds for the grocery shopping, 50 pounds for travel, like for mobile phone contract, usually is 10 pounds for 2 GB internet quote, and around 2.5 pounds a cup of coffee. For kebab, pizza, fish and chips is 9 to 10 pounds. For chim is 30 to 40 pounds and 10 pounds for plate of nasi goreng or Indonesian bakso although it's be more expensive sometimes. I just give you an example. For me in Belfast, I spent around 650 for accommodation and around 20 for mobile phone, 30 for home broadband, 70 for electricity, 50 for heating, yeah, because it's cold. Sometimes you need heating, especially in autumn and winter, and around 250 for grocery shopping. So it's quite a lot of money, but there is a way how to tackle with this. Can you put the next slide, Ian? And how you, if your scholarship is not enough, what will you do? As a student, you can work, obviously. So during term time, international student can work for a maximum of 20 hours per week. Don't exceed these working hours. If you're studying as undergraduates, master or PhD levels, the working hours is similar, in my opinion. So this is the salary. So if your age is around 20, 22, so your salary is usually around £9 to £10. It depends on your age, actually. Usually for graduate students, your age is around 18 something, and the PhD is around above 23. So you get this amount of salary per hour for the maximum of 20 hours a week. Where you can work everywhere. Depending on your PRP, what is limitation on PRP? It was stated in your PRP usually. For example, you can do like a non-formal work in a cafe, restaurant, or even a teaching assistant in your school, as long as not exceed 20 hours a week. Because if you exceed it, there's a penalty actually. Okay, Ian, next slide. And after graduates, can I work in UK as been described before? Yes, you can. So I don't need to explain this further. But you can work, you can stay in UK for 2 or 3 years, depending on your study, to stay a little bit longer in UK. And it's really useful because I am taking this route. So I taken a graduate visa route. So now I find a work in UK. And now it's not just 20 hours per week, but 40 hours per week. So it's double. So you can do a full-time work where you are applying for the graduate visa. Okay, that's all. Maybe it's very quick insight from me as an alumni. So maybe if you have a question, you can ask me later through chat and later in the end of this session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you very much, Faris, for your sharing. Without further ado, let's go to Nadila to share her experience. Over to you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Dea. Thank you, Yan, for the opportunity and British Council. So I am a Master of Public Policy graduate from LSE, also achieving scholar. Currently, I'm working as a government relations lead analyst in one of Indonesian fintech unicorn. So today I'm here to tell you about my experience living in the UK and especially the fun part of it. So all of you here today should feel proud of yourself because you're about to study in world's most popular destination for education. It is super exciting, but might be scary at the same time, right? So that's why I'm here to assist you so that you won't be scared. Next slide, please. So let me first tell you about what I love about UK, and these are my personal collections of picture actually that I took when I was there, so that I can give you a sense of it. First and foremost, of course, it's the supportive education system inside and outside of the campus, right? As mentioned earlier by previous speakers, you get mental health support. You can even request for extension to submit your homework as long as the reason is valid. And most of university in the UK also apply a blend scoring mechanism where it leads to a very objective scoring system. And you can also like utilize the career advice where they'll be like available as long as you book it upfront. And you'll get the free access to the university and public libraries. And also, of course, what I love the most is 20% student discount. For those of you also who miss breathing clean air and dreaming of having a picnic anytime, anywhere is possible when you are in the UK, so make the most of it. And also don't forget to say hi to people on the street and the handsome barista if you find one. Next one, please. So I will directly deep dive on how to do well during your study, right? So these are some of the tips and tricks to help you guys, but might not be suitable for everyone, but doesn't harm if you guys give it a try. So in my case, when I was there, I was joining a study group, and there are two reasons why. The first one, because it gives me the opportunity to get to know more about people in your classroom, and also it gives you like different cultures knowledge too. And I think one of the main reasons why it's very important is that, let's say you have like 7 lectures every week, and then each lecture they will give you like 5 or 7 readings, and then if you have the study group, you can just divide and delegate that readings, and then you guys can just like huddle up and sharing to each one another before the classes, and it will like give you some spare time to finally you can socialize and also to travel more places. So I think it's very logical for you to form or join a study group. I also put some useful apps or websites here. So for those of you who are not used to like with academic writing, you can subscribe Grammarly, you can share up to 5 people, you can use Google Scholar, and I think one of the very useful notes taking app that I used when I was in the UK is the OneNote, where you can like managing your notes, journals, and references and becoming the source of truth. Also, because UK put a very high standard in terms of their academic, so that's why you have to be very careful in terms of the citation and also references. And also in terms of like managing your time, you will need at least 40 hours to study, including the classes, Q&A sessions, seminars. This might apply for the postgrad. So be very mindful to prioritize and also measure your capacity every day. I also would like to suggest for you to join events and workshops as to learn directly from the global experts, right? And then on top of that, you get the certificates out of it. And if you have time, I think some of previous speakers mentioned about the Indonesian Students Association. So join the organization extracurricular too, so that you can feel at home also, and you can meet different Indonesian people too. Next slide, please. Right, I think, I think UK has already allocated a lot of budget for making the pocket parks, which I think is very good, where you can just easily like do picnic, as I mentioned earlier. But I also would like to highlight that the museums are free there, so why don't you just like use the opportunity, make the most of it. You might need to pay when there is like a special exhibition. On top of that, you can also attend the festival during winter. If you go to London, I think Canary Wharf usually have this, the Winter Light Festival. It's very beautiful during night, so please feel free to come. And then some places that I recommend in London are Coldrop Yards near King's Cross. For parks, they are like Primrose Hill, Hampstead Heath, because they have a very tasty hot chocolate. So use this opportunity to take a break from your study, hang out with your friends, getting to know your friends more, or maybe for having a pan of beer or just like a cup of coffee. Next slide, please. So when you're in the UK, I suggest you to explore places, right? Because you might not have this opportunity again in the future. So I put some of the list of places based on my preference there, but of course they are actually equally exciting places to visit. So some have helpful tips for you when planning to go for a trip are, of course, to check the weather, because you don't want to stay inside the house when you already spent some pennies and plan your trip like from long time ago. If you want to go for a road trip, get your international driving license now here in Indonesia, because it's super easy to get it. You just need to apply online, and then it will get delivered to you in front of your door. You can also install Turo app. It's like an Airbnb, but it's for a car, and you can basically rent a car. And apply for rail card, of course, for students discount. And there's also like one other app called Flixbus. It's like a cheap bus tickets where you can find. And then if you already know that you will explore a lot of places, you can consider to be a member of National Trust or English Heritage. So these pictures actually are from Isle of Skye in Scotland and also Brighton. So I really love these pictures. Next slide, please. So it's always great if you can cook, right? But here's some amazing cafes, restaurants, or stalls that you can visit when you're in UK, especially if you're foodies like me. If you miss home cooks, don't worry, because you can easily find Indonesian foods in the UK. So they're like Pino's Warung, Bali in London, Farringdon, Triple Hot Spicy. And if you're on budget, there's like Wasabi, Itsu, Tokyo, Subway. And if you love to consume coffee every day, you have to have coffee. You can have like monthly coffee membership at Pret a Manger. And they're also like hidden gem in London here, which you can actually read it by yourself. Okay, next one, please. So lastly, these are some tips and tricks for living in the UK. First one, what you need to bring is some spices, of course, although you can easily find Asian stores in here, instant cooking seasoning, bring just enough coat and warm clothes because you can find them cheaper in the UK. And then when you arrive, I think Jan already mentioned earlier that you need to really know the locations of where you live, and then you have to really know how can you access that using the public transportations. Or the other way is you can buy your SIM card at the airport or use airport Wi-Fi to order Uber, or also like you can like ask some friends like to order you Uber. That's what happened to me when I arrived there. If you're on a budget, use the train for sure, and you have to know your postcode. And then one of the pain points I think is also about the accommodation, right? So make sure that you can find the right place and you know the exact location. The preferred one, of course, is to get somewhere near a campus. But if you want to take somewhere cheaper, make sure that you can easily access the public transportation. Also, be careful with the scams. Always check the contract where it contains amount of deposit, whether the bill's already included. And then these are like useful websites that you can use like Gumtree, Zoopla. And when I was in the pandemic situation before I departed to UK, so I think the landlord and renter were willing to do the online tour via WhatsApp. So if you want to check whether it's truly the house that they're renting, so you can just like ask them, can you video that and do the room touring. And then lastly, always keep yourself healthy and be mindful with your mental health. There are days when you won't get to see the sun so much. So during these days, I would suggest you to consume vitamin D, get a mental health support if you get stressed out and if you need it. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to address if there are questions on the chat.
Thank you very much for the interesting sharing, Nadila. Okay, so we have now reached the end. We now have Q&A session. Is there any questions? Please drop it at the chat. So I've seen some of the question has been answered by Faris and Gurli. Right. So it seems that the information are quite understandable. No more questions. But if there is any questions, please feel free to go to the British Council, the Study UK website, and we will be sending the slide and also the recording over to you within the next 3 days. So you will be able to get all that as well. And do check out the FAQs that we sent out with the confirmation and also the reminder email. So you'll get a lot of questions answered there, questions that you have already stated in during your registration. So, so we have now come to the end of the session. I hope we have provided useful information to you, and you have also gained from our panelists sharing in preparing your journey to the UK. I would like to thank all our panelists, Mr. Hugh, Ms. Gurli, Dr. Faris, Ms. Nadila for joining us today. To all our students, stay safe and all the best in your new journey. Bye.